It's fantasy booking time here in SCW. How I would book MJF in AEW All Elite Wrestling in the year of 2023. We are just under one calendar year before the bidding war of 2024. Is Maxwell Jacob Freeman going to be re-signing with AEW, or is he going to perhaps get into a bidding war and potentially go to the rivals that is WWE? And to just keep things even more interesting, MJF is the current AEW World Champion. So, well, for storytelling purposes, you can go one of two ways, but I think it's quite interesting and quite simple of where we need to lead to. Either MJF can remain the World Champion between now and the end of the year, or if things are perhaps not quite working out on that first reign, perhaps MJF should lose the championship and then regain it perhaps towards All Out season as we get towards the latter part of the year. But for me, I do prefer the first option. The longer that MJF is the world champion, the more obnoxious he is going to be in AEW. You think the guy is despisable now. Think how he'll be if he's been world champion for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, working its way to the full calendar year. If he can get to the point where it goes to 2024 and he's still AEW World Champion, and he knows that he can get the bidding war, get the most money possible, and perhaps even leave AEW as World Champion with their championship, my goodness, you've got one hell of a storyline on your hands, particularly if news doesn't come out from the dirt sheets between now and then of what MJF is going to do. And MJF, he's very good at keeping his cards close to his chest. He's almost like none other in the modern day of professional wrestling. A lot of dirt sheet gets out on a lot of different talents. When MJF, he went missing at Double or Nothing last year. We didn't hear nothing of the guy for about 3 or 4 months, and then he came back, and then he made his impact, and of course then he went for the World Championship. So for me, as I say, have him as the World Champion the whole way through, and as he gets further throughout the year, he can actually start mentioning, I've got 6 months to go, maybe I can start talking to my competitors, maybe offers are being put on the table, maybe MJF makes demands of offers that have been put on the table, says what he wants, gets offered it, and then decides, actually, it's just not quite enough, to the point that Tony Khan will perhaps have to become an on-screen character even more than perhaps the occasional times that we see him, to the point where he's desperate to get the World Championship away from MJF. Personally, for me, I'm not sure if he's coming back at the time of recording. I think a CM Punk feud could be interesting. Of course, remember that infamously, Money in the Bank 2011, CM Punk leaving the company at the time with the World Championship. Of course, we didn't quite know what was going on. We didn't know the realism or not at that time of that storyline. It was fascinating to watch. To see it with roles reversed that MJF could do it and CM Punk is the one trying to help AEW would be quite interesting. But hey, we'd have to wait and see if Punk would return first. But of course, we've got what I think is a very underrated rivalry right now with Bryan Danielson. Fantastic. I'm really enjoying the build now to Revolution with them too. I think it's going to be a fantastic Iron Man match, by the way, and I do expect MJF, through storyline purposes, a great story told throughout that hour, working on Danielson's arm and shoulder. He will find ways perhaps to lose by DQ or do what he needs to do to get those falls up where Bryan Danielson is chasing towards the end, and I think that MJF will just do enough to retain, of course, his Triple B that he's got right now. But of course, the big question leads to then, what happens when we get towards the end of 2023? Of course, like I said, Tony Khan can throw challenges at MJF each and every week. Maybe MJF has obligations, he needs to be at shows, he needs to compete at certain times. Usually MJF is that attraction. We don't see him compete so often. Of course, he took on Takeshita on Dynamite just recently. That was his first match in 2 months since facing Ricky Starks. So you can see that we don't see very often. So the more that we see MJF in the ring towards the end of the year, the more you can see how Tony Khan is desperate. The more championship eliminator matches, or perhaps even just world title matches, making number one contender after number one contender after number one contender. If someone doesn't get the job done, then next week on Dynamite, or then even the next episode on Rampage, we're trying to build that next guy that can take MJF down, to the point that we get to the last show of 2023. Now, I would love it to actually be New Year's Eve. I think that'd be a really cool way to do it. Have a special AEW show that's never been done before, New Year's Eve, and it's almost about trying to rescue the belt and rescue the company, because Tony Khan would probably be resigned at this point. Looks bad enough you might lose your world champion, but to lose your world championship the fact that MJF may even say, you know, remember with Alundra Blaze, with Medusa back in WCW, I will take this championship and they're willing to offer me whatever I want because I'm going to go there with the gold and I'm going to throw it in the trash can because that's what this company is going to mean to me once I leave here, because I've taken it for everything it's worth. And Tony Khan, you are not giving me the offer that I need to re-sign. And of course, if it gets to that last day, pick your favorite, who you want it to be. Is it an Adam Cole? Is it a Ricky Starks? Is it a Kenny Omega? Could it even be someone like a Wardlow? Someone that, of course, wasn't under contract with AEW, but was actually MJF's bodyguard for a long time until Wardlow broke free, then earning that AEW contract. Of course, he would need quite a few wins and a couple of good storylines to build him to that point. But what a great reaction you would get from the Dynamite faithful if you don't know if MJF is staying or leaving once 2024 hits and he loses that championship on the final episode of AEW, whether it's on the Dynamite, whether it's probably wouldn't be a Rampage, but a special event as well on New Year's Eve. God, the monster pop, the celebration you could have, the joy, the happiness for Tony Khan as well. And then, well, MJF is off TV. That could be the next interesting bit. Everybody is talking. If he is signed with AEW to stay on a long-term contract, I would keep him off TV for a month or 2 months, just like what happened with Double or Nothing. Make everyone guess, is he coming back, is he not? And when he comes back, it can be the case. Look, yeah, I was offered everything on the other side, but you know what? I got used to being the world champion here, and I want that title back. I know what it felt like to be the champion, and it can be a case as well with him is that once I've got that championship back, I will get myself out of here, but I've had to re-sign. In the meantime, it gives new purpose, new storyline, new direction for MJF heading into 2024. And of course, well, maybe he won't win that championship back and he can go back into the attraction role until the time is right for him to go back and then perhaps win the world title at a later date. But for me, that's how I book him in 2023. But now it's your turn in the comments below. How would you like to see MJF booked in 2023? Should he be the world champion for the whole year? Would you do something different? And if he was to hold it for the whole calendar year and lose it like I've suggested, which wrestler would you like to see become the next AEW world champion? If you've enjoyed this video, then please do consider hitting the like button, share with a friend, and subscribe to the channel if you're new here. You've been watching SCW. Thank you for watching as always, and I will see you next time. All the best.